It was past midnight when I left home, the kind of night where the air feels too still, and the darkness doesn't just sit outside your car windows, it presses against them. I had a long drive ahead, cutting through the emptiest stretch of highway in the state. Out here, once you passed the last town, there was nothing but dirt, trees, and a ribbon of cracked asphalt stretching into nowhere. I wasn't worried at first. I'd done late-night drives before. But something about this one felt different. The GPS kept glitching, cutting out mid-direction and freezing on random coordinates. At one point, it told me to make a left, but there wasn't even a road there, just a field swallowed by fog. My fuel gauge dipped lower than I'd expected. The last gas station I'd seen was nearly 40 miles back. But then, almost like an answer to my thoughts, a dim neon sign flickered up ahead. Quick check. Open 24/7. Relief washed over me. I pulled in, gravel crunching under my tires. The lights buzzed weakly overhead, casting that sickly yellow glow that makes everything look older than it should. The place was empty. No other cars, no sound but the hum of a vending machine by the door. When I stepped inside, the bell over the door gave a flat ding. The air smelled like burnt coffee and motor oil. Behind the counter sat a man with skin so pale it looked gray under the light. He didn't greet me, didn't even glance up, just stared at something behind the counter with his mouth half open. "Evenin'," I said, forcing a bit of friendliness. No response. I cleared my throat. "Just need to fill up pump 3. He nodded slowly, almost mechanically, and pointed to the register. I slid a 20 across the counter. His hand shook slightly as he took it. Then he whispered, in a voice that didn't sound fully there, "You shouldn't be out tonight." I froze. "What?" He looked up finally. His eyes were wet, red around the edges. He said, "The road's closed ahead." They don't tell people that, but it's closed. Been closed for years. Before I could ask what he meant, the store lights flickered. For just a split second, in the reflection of the window behind him, I saw movement outside, something pale and tall, gliding past pump 3. And then, everything went dark. The lights flickered back on a few seconds later. I blinked hard, my eyes trying to adjust. The humming from the vending machine restarted, but the sound seemed louder now, like it was the only thing in the whole building that still belonged in this world. The man behind the counter hadn't moved. His eyes were fixed on the same spot, unblinking, like he hadn't even noticed the power outage. "Hey," I said cautiously, "what was that? Did you see someone outside?" He didn't answer, just kept staring ahead, lips moving without sound. I stepped a little closer, and that's when I realized what he was looking at. A small black and white TV behind the counter, playing security footage. The screen was grainy, but I could make out the gas pumps. There I was, standing outside a few minutes earlier, filling my car. Only, there was something behind me. A figure. It wasn't close enough to make out clearly. Tall, thin, dressed in something that looked like a long coat or maybe a hospital gown that flapped with the wind. Its head was bent, face hidden, but it was standing right behind me while I pumped gas. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Is that live?" I asked. The man finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "No, that's from last night." I stared at the screen, then at him. Then why am I in it? He didn't answer. He just reached under the counter and slid something toward me. A Polaroid photograph. My breath hitched when I saw it. It was a picture of the gas station, same angle as the camera, and the same figure, standing by pump 3. Only this photo was dated 2014. I forced a laugh, trying to make sense of it. "You're messing with me, right?" The man's eyes finally met mine, and for the first time, I saw what was truly off about him. His pupils weren't the same size. One was huge and black, swallowing almost the entire eye, while the other was barely a dot. He said, "You should leave." They don't like it when someone comes twice. That was enough for me. I grabbed the photo and backed out slowly, pushing through the door and heading for my car. The night air hit me like ice. Everything was silent again. I turned to look at pump 3, empty. No figure, no movement. But as I unlocked my car, I heard it. The faint jingle of the bell over the store door. I turned around. The man was gone. I got back into my car, slammed the door shut, and locked it twice, even though I knew it wouldn't make a damn difference if someone really wanted in. My hands were shaking as I started the engine. For a few seconds, the headlights stayed dim, flickering like they didn't want to wake the dark. Then they steadied, slicing through the endless stretch of asphalt ahead. The gas station disappeared in the mirror faster than I expected. I pressed harder on the pedal, eager to leave that place behind. But the road, it just kept going. Nothing ahead, nothing behind, just black. Every few miles, a green highway sign would flash past, but none of them made sense. I should have seen the marker for the next exit by now. Instead, they all said the same thing. Next services, 25 miles. Over and over. I checked my GPS. No signal. I wasn't even on the map anymore. Just a gray void where the road should have been. That's when I noticed something strange in my side mirror. A faint flicker of light, far in the distance. Headlights. At first, I was relieved. Someone else out here. But then I realized the lights weren't moving. They just hung there, suspended, like they were watching me from the dark. I slowed down to 60. The headlights dimmed. I sped up again, and they brightened, matching my every move. After a few miles of this, I pulled over onto the shoulder and cut my lights. The highway fell into complete silence. I waited. The only sound was my own heartbeat. Then, maybe 30 seconds later, the lights started moving again, straight toward me. Panic kicked in. I floored it back onto the road, tires screeching against gravel. The lights behind me followed, fast this time. Whoever it was, they were matching every turn, every swerve. I leaned forward, gripping the wheel, the white lines flashing by like strobe lights. My chest tightened. It felt like the highway was stretching, like no matter how far I drove, I wasn't getting anywhere. Then, something appeared up ahead. A sign. But instead of listing the next town, it had just 3 words printed in red. Turn around now. My stomach dropped. And when I looked in the mirror again, those headlights were gone. The road behind me was empty. But the seat, right behind mine, wasn't. There was breathing. Slow. Wet. I froze, my eyes locked on the rearview mirror, every nerve in my body screaming to look. But something deep inside told me not to. That breathing was too close, too human. I didn't turn around right away. Instead, I flicked on the dome light. Nothing. The bulb popped and died instantly. Now it was just me and the sound of that low, uneven breath. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Who's there?" No response. Just the faint sound of fabric shifting, like someone slowly leaning forward. My throat went dry. I gripped the steering wheel tighter and forced myself to glance at the mirror again, just a quick look. That's when I saw it. A face. Pale, hollow, eyes wide open but completely milky, like they'd been rolled back for too long. The mouth hung slightly open, breathing through what looked like cracked lips. And then, just like that, it smiled. I slammed the brakes so hard my seatbelt cut into my shoulder. The car skidded sideways across the asphalt and came to a stop half on the shoulder. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. When I finally turned around, the back seat was empty. No one. Just the faint smell of wet dirt, like rain-soaked leaves and something sour underneath. I got out of the car, stumbling into the cold air, trying to catch my breath. I walked around, opened the back door. Nothing. The seats were bone dry. No footprints, no sign anyone had ever been there. But when I looked down, I noticed something on the ground. A trail of small, muddy prints, barefoot, leading away from the car toward the field that stretched endlessly beside the road. They stopped about 10 feet in. No other marks, no drag lines, no impressions of weight. Just gone. I got back in the car and locked every door twice. My hands were trembling so bad I could barely shift gears. I just wanted out of that place. And as I started driving again, my dashboard clock caught my eye. 2:13 a.m. I had left the gas station at 10:45. That couldn't be right. I'd only been on the road for maybe an hour. But then I noticed the odometer. I'd driven 186 miles. I don't even remember doing it. The highway was completely deserted again. No signs, no lights, just my own reflection staring back from the windshield. And for a split second, in that reflection, there were two faces, mine and hers. I couldn't get that second face out of my head. Every time I blinked, I saw it again, those pale eyes staring through the glass beside mine. I needed to stop, think, breathe. A few miles ahead, a narrow dirt road split off from the highway. It looked abandoned, leading straight into the open field. I pulled over and killed the engine. Everything went dead quiet. Even the night bugs had stopped. The wind felt heavier here. When I stepped out, my boots sank slightly into the mud. The air smelled metallic, like rust. I aimed my phone's flashlight at the ground, following those same small, barefoot tracks I'd seen earlier. They weren't fresh anymore, but they hadn't been washed away either. They led me straight to something half buried under the mud. A phone. An old scorched flip phone with no SIM tray. When I picked it up, it was cold. Too cold. I turned it over, and on the back, etched into the plastic, were the numbers. 400. Same as the highway. Before I could think, the phone buzzed violently in my hand. The screen glowed bright white for a split second, showing a single word. Answer. I froze. There was no number, no caller ID, just that command. Against my better judgment, I flipped it open. Static. Then a faint whisper. Distant, muffled, but unmistakable. Don't look behind you. I dropped the phone instantly. My flashlight beam swung wildly across the field. Nothing. I backed toward the car, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe. When I turned to open the door, I saw it. A reflection in the window, something standing just behind me, tall and thin, face still and gray like ash, but it wasn't moving. It was waiting. I threw myself inside, locked the doors, and started the car. The engine struggled, coughed, then finally turned over. I floored it back toward the highway, my pulse racing like gunfire in my chest. In the rearview mirror, for one final second, I saw the figure still standing in the field, perfectly still, holding the phone to its ear. And then the signal bars on my dashboard flickered back to life. My phone lit up. A text message from an unknown number popped up on the screen. You shouldn't have answered.
By the time I spotted the motel sign, my gas tank was nearly empty and my nerves were worse. The flickering neon letters spelled Highway Rest Vacancy, though half the bulbs were dead, leaving only Way Rest glowing faintly in the dark. I pulled into the gravel lot. Only 2 other cars sat parked, both old, covered in dust like they hadn't moved in months. Inside, the lobby smelled like mildew and burnt coffee. A small desk bell sat on the counter beside a guest logbook with torn pages. No one was there. "Hello?" I called. My voice echoed faintly down the hallway. After a few seconds, an old man appeared from a back room. He was tall, wearing a faded brown vest and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Late night, huh?" he said, sliding a key across the counter. "Only one room left, number 9. I glanced at the key tag. Room 9. The number had been carved over something else, like someone had scraped away a 4 underneath. "Cash only," he added, voice flat. I handed him a few bills without arguing. I just wanted a door between me and the highway. The hallway to the rooms was dim, the wallpaper peeling in long strips. I could hear the hum of a vending machine somewhere near the end. My boots made soft thuds over the damp carpet as I reached my door. The room smelled faintly of cigarettes and something else. Something sweet, like rotting fruit. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and collapsed on the bed. The springs creaked like a dying animal. For a few minutes, I just lay there staring at the ceiling fan spinning lazily in the dark, trying to convince myself I was safe. Then, the phone rang. I froze. The old landline by the bedside, the one coated in dust, was ringing. I picked it up slowly. "Hello?" At first, just static. Then, that same whisper again. Faint, but unmistakable. "You left something behind." The line went dead. I stared at the receiver, heart pounding. My reflection in the dark TV screen across the room was barely visible, but as I looked closer, I noticed that there were 2 shapes in the reflection. One sitting, one standing just behind me. I spun around, nothing. The door to the bathroom was slightly ajar, though I didn't remember opening it, and from inside came a faint dripping sound. But when I looked closer, it wasn't water. It was mud. Thick, dark streaks running down from the edge of the sink, the same muddy color I'd seen on the road. And then my phone vibrated on the nightstand. A new text from that same unknown number. "Room 9 wasn't yours."
I stared at that message, "Room 9 wasn't yours," for a long time, trying to breathe through the panic building in my chest. The room felt colder now. The air itself seemed heavy. Even the hum of the light had gone dead silent. And then it came. Knock. 3 sharp taps against the door. I froze. It wasn't the kind of polite knock you give when you're asking to come in. It was slow, deliberate, the kind of sound that means I already know you're inside. "Who's there?" I called out, voice cracking slightly. No answer. I crept to the window beside the bed and moved the curtain just an inch. The parking lot was empty. The other cars hadn't moved. The neon sign outside flickered violently, casting shadows that seemed to crawl across the walls. Knock, knock. Louder this time. The peephole in the door was clouded, but I leaned forward anyway. For a split second, I thought I saw someone standing just off to the side, not directly in front, but close enough that I could see a sliver of gray skin. And then, a whisper. "You took my room." My throat went dry. I grabbed my phone and opened the messages again. The previous one was gone, just blank, no history. Then, as if to mock me, the room phone started ringing again, the old dusty landline. The sound made my skin crawl. I didn't answer it, but it didn't stop. Ring. 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 Finally, I snapped and picked it up. "What do you want?" I shouted. Static hissed in my ear, and underneath it, the faint sound of breathing. Then, clear as day, "You're in my bed." Every muscle in my body tensed. I turned slowly toward the bed. The sheets were rumpled, but I hadn't moved them that much. And now there was an imprint, like someone lying beneath the covers. The fabric rose and fell.
breathing. I staggered backward, hitting the dresser. My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. I wanted to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Then the bathroom light flicked on by itself. In the mirror over the sink, I could see the outline of a figure standing just inside the doorway. Thin, pale, still dripping mud. The room phone went dead. And on the wall above the bed, words began to appear, written slowly, as if by an unseen finger tracing through the grime. You came back. I didn't think. I just ran. Out the door, down the hallway, barefoot and shaking. The front lobby was empty again. The bell on the counter had rusted. Outside, the neon sign wasn't flickering anymore. It was off. Completely dark.
The night air hit me like a slap to the face. Cold, sharp, and too still. I sprinted to my car, fumbling with the keys, my hands slick with sweat and mud. When the engine finally coughed to life, I didn't look back at the motel. I just floored it, tires spitting gravel behind me. The road stretched out ahead, black and endless. For a few minutes, I let myself believe I was leaving that nightmare behind. But then I saw it. The sign. Highway rest. Vacancy. Same broken bulbs, same flicker. I blinked, hard. No, it couldn't be. I just left that place miles back. I drove faster, 70, then 80. The needle on the speedometer trembled as I blew past empty fields and power lines. My headlights cut through fog that hadn't been there before, thick and gray like smoke. Then, out of nowhere, something darted across the road, a shape, too quick to see clearly. I swerved hard, tires screaming, and came to a stop sideways across the asphalt. The fog thinned. Up ahead, glowing faintly in the distance, was the same motel sign again. It didn't make sense. I turned the car around, drove the opposite direction this time. The road felt different, narrower, like it was closing in. My headlights caught glimpses of strange shapes on the shoulder. Old cars, overturned, rusted through. Some still had luggage in their trunks. When I passed one, I could swear I saw movement inside. A silhouette slumped against the steering wheel, unmoving. And then a voice crackled through the car's radio, though I hadn't turned it on. You're almost home. I hit the power button. Nothing changed. The static only grew louder, turning rhythmic, almost like breathing. Don't stop now, the voice said. You've driven this road before. I gripped the wheel tighter. Who are you? I shouted, but my voice was swallowed by the hum. Then the headlights flickered, once, twice, and when they came back on, something was standing in the middle of the road. The same figure. Tall, gray, still dripping with mud. I slammed the brakes, skidding to a stop just inches away. It didn't move. The thing tilted its head slightly, then reached out and pressed one long, wet hand against the hood. The metal hissed where it touched, like acid burning through paint. I threw the car into reverse, spitting the tires until the figure vanished into the fog behind me. I drove blind for what felt like hours, but the fear stayed, and the road, it never ended. No matter which way I turned, the same faded sign waited for me ahead. Highway rest, vacancy. Only this time, underneath it, new words had appeared. Welcome back, room 9. I don't remember pulling over. 1 minute I was driving through the fog. The next, the car was parked on the shoulder, engine idling, headlights aimed at nothing but gray emptiness. For a while, I just sat there, listening to the low hum of the engine, the tick of the cooling metal. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I wanted to call someone, anyone, but there was no signal. My phone screen showed only one word where the bars should have been. Recording. I dropped it fast, like it burned. That's when I noticed something else. A small object sitting on the passenger seat. A cassette tape. Old, cracked plastic, label smeared with what looked like mud. The handwriting was barely legible, but I could make out the numbers. 9. I didn't own a cassette player. But when I looked toward the dashboard, the car stereo, which had been digital a day ago, was now an old cassette deck, glowing faintly. It shouldn't have been there. I don't know why I did it, but I slid the tape in. The deck clicked, then came static. And then my own voice. If you're hearing this, it's already too late. I froze. My voice, calm, measured, almost tired. You left the station at 10:45. You passed the sign 3 times before you noticed it. You saw her face in the mirror at 2:13. You found the phone. You answered. The voice paused. Now you're in the loop. You never checked out. I reached for the eject button, but it wouldn't move. The volume knob turned itself up, my voice growing louder. You think you're running, but you're just driving in circles. Every road leads back to Highway 400. Every door leads back to Room 9. The lights flickered. The air felt thick, electric. She's sitting beside you now. I turned my head, slowly, toward the passenger seat. Empty. Then, faintly, the seat creaked under invisible weight. The fabric pressed down, forming the outline of someone sitting there. My reflection in the rearview mirror began to blur, colors bleeding like wet paint. Behind my own face, a pale figure leaned closer, her eyes milky, her lips cracked and smiling. You never checked out. The tape repeated over and over until it warped into static. Finally, the tape snapped and spat out halfway, tangled and ruined. I grabbed it and threw it out the window, breathing hard. The fog outside swallowed it whole. For the first time, I realized I couldn't remember when I last saw the sun. And when I checked the clock on the dash, it still read 2:13 a.m. It hadn't moved since the night began.
I kept driving, though I no longer knew why. The highway had become something else, a ribbon of black glass that swallowed the light from my headlights, leaving only reflections of a sky that shouldn't have existed. It wasn't just night anymore. It was absence. The gas gauge hadn't moved in hours, the clock frozen at 2:13 a.m. And no matter how far I went, I never passed another car. I tried turning back once, but the rearview mirror showed something impossible. My own taillights still in front of me. That's when I saw it again. A sign on the side of the road, the letters faint and flickering. Exit 9, last chance. I slammed the brakes. The sign was crooked, the arrow pointing toward a narrow dirt path that curved down into the trees. Maybe this was it. Maybe the way out. I followed it, tires crunching over gravel, branches scraping the roof like nails. The fog was thinner here, glowing slightly, as if the air itself remembered light. After a few minutes, the path opened up into a clearing, and there it was, the Quick Check gas station, exactly as I'd first seen it. Lights humming, door half open, the same open 24/7 sign swinging in the breeze. My chest tightened. No, I had left this place. I remembered leaving. Still, I stepped out of the car. The night smelled of wet dirt and gasoline. My boots sank into the same muddy footprints I'd followed once before. Inside, the lights buzzed dimly. The aisles were empty, shelves coated in dust. But behind the counter, the man was there. Or something wearing his shape. He smiled when he saw me. Back again, huh?
My voice barely came out. "What is this place?" He tilted his head. "Highway rest, same as always. People come through, take a room, forget how to leave." I felt my throat tighten. I just want to go home. His smile twitched. "You are home." Behind him, a small television flickered to life. The static cleared, showing me sitting in my car, eyes wide, whispering to someone unseen. The man leaned closer, whispering in the same rasping voice I'd heard through the phone, through the tape, through every mile of that cursed road. "You never checked out room 9.